In many cases, the best way to learn about something is to first learn what it is not. This approach, known as negative advice or via negativa, can be found in a variety of fields, from physics to rhetoric. Simply put, negative advice is the act of learning by identifying and eliminating false options, rather than positively affirming the correct option. It is often doled out in the form of aphorisms, such as "don't look back," "don't put all your eggs in one basket," or "don't judge a book by its cover." While it may seem counterintuitive at first, there are actually a number of advantages to this approach. 1. Fewer false positives. With positive advice, or affirmative learning, students are often presented with a list of correct answers and asked to memorize them. The problem with this approach is that it leads to a high rate of false positives. Students mistakenly believe that they know the answer to a question when they actually do not. Negative advice, on the other hand, allows students to rule out false answers, leading to a better understanding of the material. 2. Easier to remember. Memory researcher Dr. Scott Hagwood has found that it is easier for people to remember what something is not than what something is. This phenomenon is known as the disconfirmation bias. As a result, using negative advice can actually lead to improved retention rates. 3. Greater clarity and understanding. One of the main benefits of negative advice is that it forces students to think critically about the material and really understand why an answer is wrong before moving on to the next question. This results in a much deeper level of understanding than would be possible with affirmative learning alone. Since negative wisdom emphasizes what not to do, and since it makes no unjustified presuppositions or vague generalizations about the future, it evades the trappings of pseudo-wisdom. Negative wisdom is very old and can be found in ancient Stoic, Christian, and Taoist texts. The Stoics believed that the path to wisdom lay in learning what to desire and what to refrain from, what things are within our power and what things are not. This understanding leads us to what is perhaps the most important Stoic principle of all: the use of negative visualization, or, as it is sometimes called, via negativa. Via negativa literally means the way of negation, and it is the belief that we can achieve more by desiring less. In The Wisdom of Insecurity, Alan Watts gives a wonderful example of how this works in practice. Suppose you really want a new car, but you can't afford it. If you focus on how much you want the car and how frustrated you are that you can't have it, then you will only feel worse. However, if you focus on all of the hassles that come with owning a car, the cost of gas, insurance, repairs, then you might find that you don't want it so badly after all. As Watts put it, by desiring what we do not have, we maintain the illusion that happiness resides in acquiring things outside ourselves. Via negativa is a particularly effective technique for those who tend to worry a lot or who often find themselves caught up in anxious thoughts about the future. It helps us to step back and gain some perspective on our situation. We can ask ourselves, what is it that I'm worried about? Is there anything I can do about it? And if not, then why worry? Western medicine commences a diagnosis by a process of eliminating, one by one, the worst-case possibilities. Checklists, which are used from everything from surgery to aviation, are built on the concept of elimination. In contrast, when you compound information, you make things more opaque. If we wanted to encapsulate negative wisdom into something that is practical, we would say that you should avoid ruin. If you're an investor, don't make bets that can wipe out your account. If you're an athlete, don't play or train in a way that risks a career-ending injury. Let's say you are allergic to some kinds of cheese but not others. Instead of trying to figure out which cheese to eat, simply avoid cheese. If you want to become better at socializing, don't try to look for clever things to say. Avoid saying stupid things. But just like any advice given without context, it has its problems. And this is true despite its evasion of the many trappings of pseudo-wisdom and its long history. 1. It can be overly prescriptive. One of the problems with negative advice is that it can be overly prescriptive. This is particularly true of aphorisms, which are often vague and leave little room for interpretation. For example, recall the saying, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket." What does that really mean? Does it mean that you should diversify your investments? Or does it mean that you shouldn't put all your effort into one project? Without more context, it's hard to say. 2. It can foster a fear of failure. Another problem with negative advice is that it can foster a fear of failure. This is because negative advice often takes the form of warning people about the dangers of taking risks. For example, you might have been told not to quit your day job to pursue your dream career because you could end up unemployed and broke. While there is some truth to this, after all, there are no guarantees in life. Fearing failure can also prevent you from ever taking the leap and achieving success. 3. It can discourage creative thinking. Finally, negative advice can discourage creative thinking. This is because negative advice often focuses on problems rather than solutions. For example, if you're told not to quit your day job, you might spend all your time thinking about why quitting your day job is a bad idea without ever considering other options, such as working part-time or finding a way to make your dream career work for you. As a result, negative advice can leave you feeling stuck instead of empowered to find new and innovative solutions to problems. While there is some truth to negative advice, it can also be harmful.